How are you? Guess who? So, I'm going to go over with you today the idea of heart disease. This is a great book. It's called The Great Cholesterol Myth. Just want to go through with you the concepts of heart disease, where it came from, why we say what we say, and a few things. In this book, The Cholesterol Myth, he goes through the entire ideas of why we believe fat and cholesterol causes heart disease. So I want to go through some of this stuff with you. I have this bottle of snake oil. I talk about this a lot because for years people have been saying that chiropractors are snake oil and wah. The more I do what I do, the more I look behind the scenes. For instance, let's just talk about heart disease and cholesterol. The snake oil that's the snake oil. These theories that are out there on genetics, these theories that are out there on heart disease, and we just keep doing the same thing and everybody's dying, and yet I'm the snake oil doc. Anyway, so back to cholesterol for a second. So what happens in the 1950s, we're seeing a lot of people dying of heart attacks, and we start to put some time in to say, hey, we want to figure out where this is coming from. So in the 1960s, there's two major ideas that are happening out there. There's a guy named Dr. John Yudkin, who's a major researcher, and basically says sugar is causing heart disease. And then there's a guy named Ancel Keys who comes along and says, it's fat that's causing heart disease. Well, over a time frame, Ancel Keys works his way up in the National Institutes of Health, and he gets a very high-level position, and he discredits Yudkin. He says it's not sugar, it's the fat. So what happens, he not only discredits Yudkin, but he basically destroys the guy in the entire field of medicine. And so over a time frame, there's been this idea that sugar's been giving us trouble, but oh, by the way, the fat is the big issue. So because of Ancel Keys and his fraudulent research that he did and his drive for power, he convinces everyone that fat is causing it. Over a time frame, the cholesterol theory to this day has never been shown to be true. Yes, I'm going to repeat that again. There is not even one scientific paper that shows high cholesterol causes heart disease. Not one. Actually, the reverse is true. There's a couple papers out there, many by the way, that show that low cholesterol causes heart disease and heart attacks. So here we are, plugging along on this cholesterol thing. So in the 1970s, what do we start talking about? No red meat, no eggs, cut out cholesterol. And what do we start eating? Garbage. We start eating vegetable oils, fake oils, hydrogenated oils, margarine. And what are we all doing? We're pounding sugar. We're pounding it because sugar is not the issue here. So the fat becomes the villain. So all throughout the 70s, we're talking about this. All throughout the 80s, we're talking about this. Then in 1984, Japanese researcher discovers statin drugs. And he says, hey, this statin drug, which by the way was pulled off of red rice yeast extract, we can lower cholesterol. And because we know cholesterol is causing heart disease, if we lower it, we're going to have dramatic drops in heart disease. So it's discovered in 1984. In 1986, the American Heart Association makes a bold claim that we will eradicate heart disease within 2 years. Because now we got our pill, right? We got our snake oil, statin, and that drug is going to lower cholesterol and we're going to wipe out heart disease. Well, let me tell you what happened. So since that time frame in 1986, everybody's popping statins. I mean, everybody under the world's popping statins. And now they've lowered the cholesterol level. It used to be 280, then it went to 240, then it went to 200. The 9 doctors that dropped it from 240 to 200, 8 of them were paid directly by the pharmaceutical industry to tell you that information. So to me, it's a big scam. The other thing also is, are we seeing a drop in heart disease? And the answer is absolutely, positively, no. The number one cause of death in the U.S. is still heart disease. Over 600,000 people are dropping dead of heart attack. By the way, 70% of those, they get no symptoms. They just drop dead. And how many people now are taking statins? Thousands, millions, gazillions. You know what? I'm just going to look it up for you right now to give you an idea here. Let's check this out. How many people are taking statins? My phone is glitching. I'll get it for you. Anyway, a lot of people are taking statins. So over a time frame, what we also found out is by taking these drugs, they statistically manipulate the benefits. But the real benefits of these drugs are about 1 to 3% decrease clinically in your risk of heart attack. You heard that correct. 1 to 3% decrease. So, oh my gosh, but doc, I've heard a lot of stuff about the side effects of statins. Oh yeah, they're devastating because the statins, on your way to lowering cholesterol, lowers what's called coenzyme Q10. Coenzyme Q10 is essential for every single cell in your body to make energy. The cells that require the most energy get hit the hardest. That's, guess what? Your heart, brain, spinal cord, nerves, and muscles, and gastrointestinal system. So over a time frame, as you lower this, you lower the ability of these cells to make energy. To me, it's one of the worst drugs out there because it has devastating effects on lowering the overall voltage, the energy of every single cell inside your body and your brain. And there's research on depression, anxiety, bipolar, a wide variety of other health problems with the brain that are looked at as psychological problems, and memory issues are actually coming from lower and lower levels of cholesterol. Cholesterol also is the precursor to all your hormones. So wax out your hormones. It's absolutely crazy. So that's the story on that. So if cholesterol is not causing heart disease and the statins are not decreasing heart attacks, what are the key factors in heart disease? Well, here's what I think, and here's what the research shows. Number one, sustained inflammation. And all sustained inflammation starts where? In your gut. Number two, blood sugar issues, dysglycemia, bouncing around. And if you're a diabetic, your risk of heart disease is through the roof. So never mind the cholesterol. You better work on that blood sugar. And never mind that you're a diabetic and you're going to start popping the drugs to lower the blood sugar. You got to figure out why you have the blood sugar issue. Number three, low antioxidants. Very, very common in people, and we can run blood tests to determine this. And number four, high homocysteine levels. So those are the top four causes of heart attacks. One more thing on the statin drug. As we've gone up taking statins, heart disease has still gone up. But another significant issue with the heart has gone up proportionally to taking statins. It's called cardiomyopathy. So what happens? As you take the statin, you produce less coenzyme Q10, and then all those tissues that require the most energy get weak. So your heart muscle gets weak. So if you look at the incidence of cardiomyopathy, it's gone up exactly proportional to the amount of statins that we're taking. We're spending billions of dollars a year on this system, and everyone's still dropping dead of heart attacks. When will you or I'm already awake, when will you and the rest of society pick their head up to look at the real cause of heart attacks? It is not high cholesterol. Thanks.